rating and leave a comment. The app is completely free, and Zingo TV is available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and all smart TVs 2016 and forward. So we talk about this a lot, and that is we are blessed to be able to have people in our lives that come in, and sometimes it's for reasons and seasons. Now, this next guest is someone who is my sister. I love her to pieces, and you're going to fall in love with her too. She is not only a celebrity of television, as well as having the distinction of being a celebrity medium as well. She is a spiritual leader. She is a soul lifter. She is a world influencer, an author, a speaker, and most of all, just an insanely gorgeous, beautiful human being that lights up a room when she steps into it. And so please welcome tonight my beautiful and gorgeous friend, Lisa Williams. Lisa, thank you.
Oh, Chuck. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. First time I met you, you just allowed, you just allow everybody to shine. And, I was so nervous walking into the whole YBL family, but it was just like I'd met that family, like the family I'd been missing. So you're an integral part. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm so grateful. And, it's, as we talk about a lot and we connect, it's like we get to, I mean, how blessed are we that we actually get to have conversations like this and connect with one another. And I was reminded about something, and you came to my heart when I was having this kind of internal dialogue. I was like, whew, where would the world be right now if there was more authenticity?
Oh my gosh. I agree.
Right? I mean, and I'm not trying to go woo-woo, so sorry, y'all, if we like start delving off into a little bit of this space. There's a very general rule about, I will say, behavioral sciences and self-development. And people go,
Mm-hmm.
oh, well, what is that? I said, well, distinctions about who we are and who we get to be when we allow ourselves to be, when we actually acknowledge ourselves and not sit as judge, jury, and executioner of whether we're living that perfect blueprint of life and then where we're living now and
Yep.
trying to like struggle our way up to it. I know, Lisa, you've had such a profound journey and you're nowhere near done with this whole,
I hope not.
you're like, woo, hey, I didn't know there was that kind of show, Chuck. So no, we're not talking about end of life. We're actually talking about thriving in life.
Mm-hmm.
And what are some of the things that you have been finding? You deal with so many different people at a highly elevated level that this topic of authenticity, because it kind of gets thrown around like a wet towel. It's like
Yep.
it's there and you just toss it over there and people are like, yeah, what authenticity?
Yep.
How does that resonate with you? What when you think authenticity, how does that make you feel?
So it's a really good question because you're absolutely right. A lot of people throw the word authenticity around all the time. And I never forget, I want to go back almost 18 years ago when I was getting off the plane to land in America. And my husband at the time actually said to me, he said, "What is our word what is the intention? What is the word?" And we both turned around and went, "Authenticity." And it was about being who we are, being in alignment of who we really are. And that doesn't mean that I have to agree with everybody's viewpoints. It doesn't mean I have to agree with what their likes and their dislikes are and their opinions. It just means I have to be authentic to the core and show up with who I am and what I can give to the world. And whether or not it's needed by some people or not, it's really just allowing myself to shine.
Yes.
And when I can see somebody's authenticity in themselves and look and go, they're being so authentic. They might be speaking something very, very difficult right now, but they are being true to who they are. To me, that's an honor to actually be able to have that little glimpse to their soul. And again, without getting too woo woo, a glimpse to who they really are and their values and their alignment of what feels good for them.
Yes.
So that's what I see authenticity as.
Oh, beautiful. There's I don't know why this just keeps kind of floating to me. It's like self-respect.
Mm,
There's this element that people, and I'll say it from my hallucination, that there's this tendency when people go, oh, well, if I make me first, then I'm being selfish. And I go, well, if you don't put the oxygen mask on you first,
Yeah,
now you become a hindrance to everyone else.
that's right.
So how can we be living in that space of self-confidence, self-respect,
Hmm.
honoring our own dignity? Because I say, oh my gosh, authenticity is being you.
Of
And,
course.
and the universe doesn't create broken things. It literally only can manifest beauty and intention and good stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
not to make it like so baseline. It's like it's and so I go, okay, so that being the case, we get to acknowledge it, own it, and then live in it.
Hmm.
So where does this presupposition of judgment come from?
It's a tough call, and I think you hit the nail on the head when you said about being basic. We
Mhm.
try, and I see it in my world. I deal with thousands of people, and you have to go live, and you have to have this persona and be out on social media, and so people have expectations. But when we go fall into the expectations of other, we're always going to disappoint someone. But when we show up as an authentic person and we show up at the core baseline of everything in the most simplistic form, we this judgment and these opinions and these things that, you should believe in this and you should believe in that, you know, there's a lot that I was growing up, especially in England. There was a lot growing up where you should do this and you should do that, and you're expected to do this and expected to do that. When people come to me, and because obviously my world is all healing, when they come to me, they're healing from the expectations placed upon their shoulders of judgment. And
Yeah,
this is where they're coming to me and saying, Lisa, how do I create boundaries? How do I heal? And if honestly, we've both got younger children, teen kids who are leaving college and everything else. But and our children the same. But if we could teach this to our kids from a very young age, as I'm sure you have, and I know I have, and then I look at their friends and I'm like, oh man, I just want to let me teach you some of these lessons that I've taught my own children, because it is so simple. And it is so simple, and people try to complicate life. They really do.
you really do. You bring up a great point about boundaries, and again, I go, what if you just remove the boundaries? What if freedom was the gift and the
Mm,
opportunity is they go, what freedom to do what? They go, be who you are.
yeah, yeah,
There's this scenario now where branding and perception and, oh, I need to follow and be like ABC or
yep,
the royal family of Hollywood, or and it's like, wait, what? Like that's the norm? So living in a $68 million home and driving a Lamborghini, that's every day, right? And I go, oh no, because for the average person, they're trying to figure out food, bills, time, energy. For the person who's going, oh, well, where are we going this quarter on vacation? And you're like,
yeah.
vacation? Wait, what? Like you get to take vacation? That
Hmm.
and some people go, wow, wouldn't that be nice? What's vacation? And I go, escaping for a weekend to like a koa, a camping ground, and pitching a tent and being able to barbecue with my family. That's a
Yep,
vacation.
yep. So it was funny because I just did a social media Facebook thing, and I was talking about vision boarding and how
Mm,
to create your vision. And somebody said, "Well, wouldn't it be nice, to have an endless supply of money and go wherever you want, Lisa?" And I went, "There's an expectation, or people make an assumption, and this is what happens: is this phone is we're making everything perfect on here. These little selfies." And I've got a daughter who's just turned 21. It's all this flicking of the hair and the little dances on TikTok, and and it's so interesting because they're trying to come across in this with this perfect captured life. And I'm like,
Yes.
just be true to who yourself. Hey, I'm looking to try and find a job. I'm 21. We all had to start there. People knew I had debt collectors on my doorstep. I was a single mom, and my life was just as difficult as everybody else's. And it's really all relative. It's
Yes.
really truly relative. And I think people live in this odd perception that the world has to be perfect.
Oh,
And honestly, it's not perfect. It really isn't.
the filters. When you said that, I was like,
Oh,
I just thinking that, who's using filters and who's changing their appearance because they have little crow's feet, or they're like,
hmm
oh, if I could just look 5 years younger. And I go, wait, are you like swiping left, swiping right? Are you, what are you, where are you living?
yeah,
And so
yeah,
part of it's the ecology and the perception of who you need to be. And then I'm reminded of who you get to be.
yeah,
Because if
yeah.
you're
It's great.
constantly putting on airs and you're not being your true self, that's work. Like,
Yeah.
the easiest thing to be is you.
Yes.
I- If you allow yourself to be, and I'll put it a different way, when you allow yourself to be. For some people, it's if, because they don't even know who they are.
No, they
They
don't.
have so many different personalities that are running the show. And so when they get to strip away, and someone was asking me, and they said, what needs to happen? And this is going to sound really out there, but I'm going to throw it out there anyway, because I'd love to get your insights on this. Forgiveness.
Oh. Yes, so forgiveness is massive.
Mm,
Obviously, I've been in the world as working as a psychic medium for a very, very long time. And I've had the pleasure, and it sounds really odd for me to say I've had the pleasure of witnessing people die, but I really have. I've
mm,
had the pleasure of being in that process where people have been passing away, and my dream.
yes.
And I've been working with a lot of people in the healing capacity, and a lot of the time whenever I look at someone's body who is struggling with healing, or they've got ailments coming up, they've got illnesses, or they're in that passing stage, a lot of the time the one thing is they said, I wished I'd have forgiven earlier. I
Yeah.
wished I'd have forgiven for peace for me. It's not about forgiving that person. You're not condoning whatever's happened, but it's finding peace within. And that peace within is part of you living your best life, you being able to show up not and it's not a boundary, and it's not saying that you've forgotten about it, but it's allowing yourself to heal that person within, the emotion that's attached. Our body holds on to the energy, and being able to say, I've forgiven, my abuser, my father, my aunt, my uncle, my dad, my child, whoever it may be. I've forgiven them because I want peace.
Yes. Yeah.
I deserve peace. And that goes back to your point, Chuck, when you were saying, put your own oxygen mask on first. Be a little bit selfish.
Kids do this automatically. I have this saying
Mhm.
in that people become empowered when they remember how to forget.
Oh, yes.
That's when we become empowered, because kids do it automatically. They're so shiny penny, and they haven't had the levels of emotional plaque where they've been, carrying this on their shoulders for so many
Yeah.
years. Because there's this kind of emotion adoption program that as we gain chronological experience, that all of a sudden we're like, going, in other words, aging and getting old, that all of a sudden it's like, going, hey, I'm supposed to be cogity. Hey, and I go, no, you don't have to be bitter. In
Yeah,
fact,
you don't.
when I look at kids and they'll be running, they fall down, and you go, oh, look, a puppy. Oh, and all of a
Yep.
sudden it's like, wait, where did the pain go? Where there's nothing, and there's zero judgment about it. And
Yep.
and what we can learn from the naivete of letting go. It's so
Mhm.
cathartic. And when we adopt other people's fatigue, when we adopt other
Mm.
people, I love what you said, and that is, in this cycle of life, Simon Sinek says this. He goes, it's not about winning or losing. It's about staying in the game as long as you can.
Mhm.
Why?
Yep.
Because the journey isn't about things and stuff. It's about the experience. It's about living. It's about thriving. There's a difference in levels with surviving, living, and thriving.
Thriving. Yep.
And
Yep.
some folks go, I can't even think of what thrive would look like.
You know, I think that's a valid point, and some people can't see what thriving is
Mhm.
because we're stuck in that everyday thing. And one of the things that I always teach my students and I teach the people that I work with is to stop getting wrapped in the details. The details are what cause us the headaches, the stress, the
Yes.
emotion that nee, how am I gonna, how am I gonna pay this bill? How am I gonna pay my car payment? How am I gonna afford my child support this month? And all of this. And it's the very valid things. But when we look at it from the big picture, these are tiny little details. And when we pull ourselves away, and this is truly why we've got a lot of anxiety in the world, when we pull ourselves away and we see it from the bigger picture and we say, you know what? It may just take a phone call. It may just take a, hey, this month I need to do X.
Yes.
And facing the responsibility, no matter how old we are, we have to face some form of responsibility. I was only having this conversation with a friend of mine, and she talks a lot about flow, and she talks about a lot of allowing life to flow. And she's a master manifestor. And I actually said, can't you just, she's here helping me recover. And because I've had two dental surgery. And she's like, I said, can't you stay with me? You're a master manifestor. She said, but you can do this.
Yes.
And it's just asking for what you want. And it's so powerful when people get out of the, let's take away the detail and let's come out of it and say, okay, what do I need? How am I going to overcome this hurdle? And then work through it. It changes everything. It really does.
It does. In that frame, I was remembering back a couple weeks ago when my buddy Harry Single was on the speaker spotlight, and he shared something with us, and he said, "We live in a time. I mean, let's think about this for a moment. Amazon,
Ah,
and what Amazon was based off of was the universe. That
yeah.
whatever you ask the universe for, it delivers. It really
Yeah.
does. We would call it manifestation, if we want to call it positive thinking, karmic engagement, and yet there's this very simple aspect to this. And some people go, well, what's the difference between someone who's actually receiving and someone who's not? They're home.
Oh,
They're
true.
home. They're home to accept it, to believe it, to receive it. Because if you're not home, it's being delivered to your neighbors, or it's being left on the porch, and then a porch pirate who is looking for an easy opportunity will
Yes.
take what you've manifested.
Mm-hmm.
And you've
Yep.
paid for it. Time, energy, intention, love, connection, growth, contribution, whatever the case might be, that's the currency. So it's like,
Yep.
oh, so were we taken advantage of? And I said, well, you weren't home.
Mm,
Why?
yeah.
Because you were busy. You were busy. It's the whole language pattern behind it is almost like, oh, that just sounds kind of smarmy. And it's like, well, the truth is, when we're being authentic, that we take, and you said it, accountability, that
Mm-hmm.
we are responsible and we get to. The difference is when we decide to. And this part has been so liberating in so many ways because now the have to, by comparison to the get to,
Yep.
whoo, what a shift it makes in that whole psychology. But also, there's this kind of sense of freedom and relief that comes from it, where now I don't believe that I have to do this show. I get to. Why? Because we get
Mm,
to speak to communities and help maybe just someone who's out there tonight who's going, wow, I'm so busy and I'm so tired. How do I move forward? How do I find
right.
opportunity? Like, Lisa, what are some of your rituals? Like, what are some of the things you do to gain self-respect and
Wow.
self-confidence?
It's actually amazing. I will tell you truly. It's when people say to me, what is it that you can do, I truly say, is coming home to the heart.
Yeah.
We've all heard of Joe Dispenza, and we've heard of his work, and I had the pleasure of releasing a track 2 years ago in the height of COVID, in lockdown, with one of his musicians, Barry Goldstein, a dear friend of mine, and we created this meditation, and it was about coming home. We called it "Coming Home to the Heart." And when we're coming home to the heart, and we're coming back into that authenticity space, we're coming back into that place of, you know, sitting in meditation, sitting in quiet. One of the things, listen, Chuck, we've all had to struggle. We've all had to, do the grind and da 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 and all of this stuff. And truly, that when we're in that, we can't see the wood for the trees. We're like, how am I going to make the next dollar? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? But sometimes when we take a space, our brain. I don't want to get all sciencey on you, but
No,
when
bring it.
we I can get as sciencey as you want, but when we actually, our brain has space for grace. I call it space for grace. When our brain has that space for grace, and our brain has that quiet place, what's happening is it has time to process, and that's where our intuition comes in. Suddenly you'll have these ideas in the shower, these ideas while you're cooking, ideas while you're driving, these aha moments while you're cleaning your teeth. And what
Mhm.
you're doing is you're allowing your brain to have that space for grace, that ability for you to say, oh, that's a great idea. Oh, that's an idea. Why didn't I think of this? And it's because we're constantly trying to hustle. We're constantly trying to hustle, hustle, hustle. How are we going to get there? How are we going to get there? How are we going to get there? And actually, if we just say, I don't care how I get there, just let me be. And
Yes.
one of the greatest things that I've done, and truly, it's one of the big things, is that I actually say, I have to have this quiet time. I have to get myself into the quantum energy, which is more cosmic energy or scalar energy, whatever you want to call it. I take a deep breath in, I hold my breath, and then I take a long exhale. And what I'm doing is I'm just allowing my brain to sort of go,
Yes.
because we are overstimulated. Back from the 90s, back in 1990s, we have 600 more impressions on our brain for advertising, for all sorts of commercials of all sorts of things. We are constantly overstimulated, that our brain is constantly trying to process the data and what is real and what is not real and what is fact and fiction, and our brain doesn't understand it.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why we've got so much anxiety. We're overstimulated. And what we need to do is have that space for grace to allow ourselves just to come back into that moment, sit, breathe, go back into nature, back into ourself, our core, our authenticity, to allow ourselves to heal and say, right, show me the way forward.
Yeah.
Show whatever it is.
In social media, I mean, when we think about what ADHD is as far as
Oh,
its
yeah.
definition, and if your brain can only engage and it distorts, delete, and generalizes information because the reticular activating system, the RAS, can only, wherever we place our focus, where focus goes, energy flows.
Yeah.
It's there to protect us and to create that level of focus and concentration. And so when I hear this ideology for people, they go, "Oh, you just need time to disconnect," and I go, "No,
No.
you actually need to fully connect." Because what's happening is in this suppression, and again, you said it, like these devices, beautiful, amazing, and the challenge is that they are everything to some
Yeah.
people. They sleep with it. You know,
Yeah.
we had a speaker on this morning, and he was like, "Oh, hey, do your marketing while you're sitting in the restroom." I'm like, going, first of all, ooh. Second of all,
Ew.
I'm like, no, time out, time out. Purell and Lysol and everything else. And I was like going, okay, and then I was like going, is there no sacred time? Like,
Mhm.
seriously. And so some people call it meditation, some people call it prayer, some people call it quantum. And I go, slow the frick down so you can speed up. It's
Yeah.
literally, babies do this. They get to the point of exhaustion, even after a tantrum. And they're so flustered that they're not even making sound. And it's like,
Mhm.
they breathe. And when they let go,
Yeah.
diaphragmatic breathing, vagus nerve connects, your body, mind, and spirit are in comprehensive flow together. And in that moment, the authenticity of who you are is in full effect.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
also that opportunity, isn't it, where now energetically, since there is no limitation to energy, in particular spiritual energy, that you get to emote and project and connect at a deeper level to yourself and others.
Oh, 100%. It's funny because, and this will make you laugh, okay? Because here I am. I've been forced to have these 3 days off because of this dental surgery, and I'm like, okay, I can work. I've got this new book. I've got this new idea. I've got this, da, da, da. And then guess what happened? The internet went down for 2 days, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I couldn't watch any of the streaming. I mean, I was panicking about today's show, but it all came back up. And then suddenly I was like, the universe is telling me to stop. Even when my body needs to rest, the universe is telling me to stop. So I stopped.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, Chuck, this is so funny. The internet came on. Suddenly my phone rang. This happened. This happened. And all of a sudden I had opportunity, opportunity, opportunity open its door because I allowed myself to breathe. And
Yes.
I feel like when things happen like this, and this happens to everybody out there. Yes, you don't have to be spiritual. It happens to everyone. If you're running late for a car, for a meeting and your car won't start, if you've missed the plane or you have had to run back because you've spilt coffee on you, look at it as an opportunity to have a breather, because it's an opportunity that the universe, the world, God, source, whatever you decide it is saying, breathe, take a moment.
And that's being home.
It is.
Honor. The H in home stands for honor. Honor
Yeah.
yourself and all living things. It's the O is for others. The M is manners. Be polite. Be who you are. Be courteous.
Mm,
And the E is for energy. And it's not just the energy of life. It's in Indian culture, they call it, Auntie G, Chuck G, Lisa G. It's a sign of reverence. And they found
mm,
that inner was actually the interconnected value that is amongst all living things. So when you take it to a higher level, it's about being authentic and real. It's about,
yeah.
and I was like, oh my gosh, this is such a beautiful, beautiful testament to these all these beautiful souls. I'm seeing people that are in Melbourne and all over the world,
Yeah.
and thank you this conversation, and thank you all for being so present in here and the commentary. It's beautiful to see that people are healing with energy and that they are resetting themselves and allowing themselves. And like you and I discussed before we even got on today, it's like
Yeah.
this is for the world so we can all heal.
Yeah.
Where would we be politically, geopolitically, if there wasn't this sphere of narcissism and
Mm,
egotistical, embellishment where people are
yeah.
pushing their narrative on others, and irregardless of political affiliation, it's like, why can't we just be happy? Why
Hmm.
can't we and choose happiness?
Yeah.
So I'm going to spin this in a slightly different direction because I actually believe that this is the cornerstone for authenticity. And that is honoring the way that you need to feel most often.
Yeah.
And people are like, wait, what? It's a choice. If the RAS, that reticular activating system, and where focus goes, energy flows, if you're constantly concerned about moving away from things, from pain, from restriction, I said, then that's the brain doesn't know what's positive and negative. In fact,
Hmm.
it doesn't even acknowledge anything negative. So it will take that as an affirmation.
That's right.
And you will move more towards that path. So I'll teach you a little trick. If you're trying to move away from something, acknowledge the way that you need to feel most often. If it's contributory, loving, connected, kind, guided, oh my gosh, your person will appreciate your programming
Yeah.
because your
Yeah.
mindset's based on your heart set. And like Lisa was saying, so when you slow down and you get to connect, it's not just you, it's the collective. if you want to call it the dew of the universe that's conspiring to give you the nutrition and hydration that you need to elevate
Mhm.
and grow beyond your current condition. I go, wow, wow.
Yeah.
Was that painful? No.
It was easy.
But so the $1 billion question, my beautiful friend, why do we make it so freaking difficult?
I've often thought about this, and I've had to look at my own self, and I think it's because we've been conditioned. Society has conditioned us. I look at my parents. I love my mom and dad, but
Hmm,
they are that old school, you work hard, come on, come on. The H's recession. And when I look at my dad, I remember my dad saying to me, Lisa, when are you going to get a proper job? And I went, what? And he said, you can't be a psychic medium all your life. And I went, okay, okay. And then, and I get it. I totally get it. But the thing is, that was my job. That was aligned with my core value. And I didn't need to be, penny pinching. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to do what was right for me, that was easy for me, that flowed for me, that people wanted and needed, but it was just easy. I didn't want to go and do the hustle. And
right.
I think the $1 million, I don't know whether it's the answer, but to the question, I feel as though society has conditioned us to work hard and feel like it's been tough, where actually when we look at manifesting and we look at flow, and I love that energy goes where you focus and the universe will give more of it. It's true. When you put your energy where it's aligned for you back into that authentic space, it's going to come back to you tenfold.
Well, it's kind of like when you hear a tone, and if you send it out and it comes back, and when you make the tone again, it almost is like it's amplifying, it's picking up
Hmm.
resonance, it's
Hmm.
deepening in its connectivity. And I go, ooh, so what if the music that we're playing starts to resonate with others? And now it's like, oh, now we get to harmonize. Now,
Yeah.
now we get to be in concert with each other. I said, that's true collaboration. It's not cacophony of noise at this point. There's structure to it. There's meaning to it. There's connection to it. And we can't even put words to it. It's just what makes five-part harmony so beautiful. Like I love listening to the Fijians just sing.
Oh yeah.
Hello. And it's like, oh my gosh. Yeah, like the group Pentatonics, and you're like going,
Oh
holy smokes, that's just a handful of people? Like
yeah.
four? Wait,
Yeah.
what? And how? Well, they're living in their gifts. They're not trying to outdo one another. They're harmonizing. See, there's this whole concept of balance in life. I go, it doesn't exist. Your body is seeking synergy or a harmonious way of residing and living. So I said the synergy and symbiosis of how people feel. I said it's ebb and flow, yin and yang. It's this, and
Hmm.
it's constantly in motion. And not just in one
Hmm.
motion. I said it's like a spherical motion. And if you put pressure on one side, it adjusts on the other side, and it looks for equilibrium.
Yeah.
Yet if you're so busy running on that treadmill, you don't even notice because your myopic focus doesn't allow you to resonate. Because again, you're just deleting, generalizing information. You're not being. And you, we did this beautiful meditation when we were in Machu Picchu with you. And one of the things I'll remember is where you do allow, and this is so important, where you allow your focus to flow.
Mm.
Are you keeping it within you? Some people get so scared that they just hold it within and they don't allow it to resonate out.
Yep.
Well, so I'm going to ask this question. If part of your resonation is that you love to give, are you a willing receiver?
Mm.
Because isn't it selfish if we only love to give and we only allow ourselves the gift of giving and we never are gracious receivers to allow someone else the gift of receiving that gift of giving?
Yeah,
And
that's a big deal.
this was me. I was like, oh, no, no, no. Why? Because I didn't feel like I deserved it.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. And it
Yeah.
was like, whoa, that does not feel good. And I was reminded by a family member I was being selfish.
I can relate to that. Chuck, you're right. I was only having this conversation again. I've had some deep conversations with a friend of mine while she's been here, and we were talking about this. And she loves to give. And me, I'm always the one, don't. I'm always the giver. And so to receive, much like you, it's like, oh. And so I realized when I said yes, the joy on her face was the best gift that I could give her. And I realized that she needed to give to me rather than me constantly give to others. And so, therefore, me saying yes, and I have now learned probably in the past 2 or 3 years to actually say yes, which has been a really hard thing. And one of the greatest things I ever said yes to, and I am going to say this, was actually that trip in Mexico to YBL. That was the greatest gift. And saying yes to coming into that trip and speaking and sharing my gift with everybody was a gift to me.
Yes.
And it was everybody wanted to give and everyone wanted to receive. And it was again the flow. And I think that's what people are missing is
Yes.
that you feel like you've got to give, but a receive because then you get time to give and then you can receive and then you and it's unbelievable.
It's the evolution, revolution,
Yeah.
continuation. It's electricity doesn't work unless you flip the switch.
Ugh, I
And
love it.
so if it's flowing constantly, but it's meeting resistance, the light never goes on. And I realize, and thank you, Lisa. You're brilliant. I mean, you are such a bastion of connectivity, and I'm so grateful that you're part of Your Best Life and YBL.
Me too.
It's our goal was to create an environment where people could be themselves
Mm,
with zero judgment from the rest of the world, and it wasn't about measuring pocketbooks or prosperity or anything else. It was literally how can we choose to root for one another. And it's
mm,
one of the most giving environments I've ever experienced in my entire life. And I'm blessed to say that we are the strength in this community. There's no
yeah.
leader, there's no figurehead. The community is what leads this environment. And I'm reminded because some people will go, "Oh, well, I don't strategize with the mentor strategist," and I go, "Why not?"
Why not? Yeah.
And I realized something: they're not used to receiving.
Mm,
So they have a conditioning that isn't allowing people who love to give the gift of receiving and putting into practice what they're learning as well. And I go, why are they mentor strategists and not just coaches? I said, they're mentor strategists because they live this. They
yeah.
live this. They don't just do this, they live this. And
Mhm.
where we all get stronger, because I learn from each and every one of you every single day. Every engagement I get to have, oh, what a blessing, because I expand. And when we expand together, I go, that's called community.
Mm,
That's not just about what's good for you, good for me. It's like, it's good for all of us. That's a level 3 relationship. I'm behind that every day and twice on Sundays.
yeah.
And so, you know, so you said something that just hit me like a ton of bricks. And that was when we actually listen.
Mm,
And this is something because there's a lot of talk, right? And when you said something that really just kind of set a trigger in me, and that it's one thing to receive, it's another thing to be a actual gracious recipient.
yeah.
Because if someone feels like you're receiving with restriction or with rules or with judgment, it's like, hmm, hmm, that's no. No. Why? Because there's this shift that occurs within us. And that's when we start to move away from feeling authentic. Part of that's slowing down. Because if the
Mhm.
mind is racing so much and we're not living in that beautiful heart space, and I love what you say so constantly, and that is, are you really connected? Are you listening? Not just are you listening? Are you listening?
Mhm. Yeah. You know, it's actually interesting. I love using this analogy, especially with my students, is the word listen, Listen, is the same letters as the word silent. The same letters. So listen sometimes means being silent,
Yes.
and sometimes being silent means that we can listen. And we're listening to ourselves. We're listening to the God source within. We're listening to our higher self. We're listening to whatever you decide, is your place. But when you can listen and you're listening to the internal self and not the chatter that says, oh, you need to lose weight or get yourself a better job. No, when you really listen to the core essence of who you are, all of that other mind chatter doesn't matter. You're then listening to the self, and one of the greatest things, Chuck, is going out and listening to nature.
Oh,
We had a tornado here, a couple of days ago, and just listening to the rain, listening to the earth speak to us,
yes.
listening, and as much as it was devastating and everything else, but listening to what the earth was saying, the rain was saying, and it was almost as though it was a whole orchestra outside speaking to us. And sometimes we ignore this because we're so busy to go to this place, this place, this place. Just stopping, my grandfather would just say, stop and smell the roses. Just
Yes.
stopping and having that moment and just breathing and going, okay, thank you. That's all you need.
It really is. And I mean, thank you all so much for the chats and the commentary. This is
Yeah.
beautiful. This is going to sound a little woo, and I'm going to put it out there anyway. You're here for a reason tonight. Someone was saying they were going to put a movie on, and they're here. And I will just say thank you for being open. Thank you for allowing us to be ourselves and for us to commune together. This feeling of energetic communication really is the most fundamental. This is where words don't need to be spoken. If this is only 7% of communication, and it truly is, what is the rest of it? And I said, you, the
Mm.
unadulterated you, the unfiltered you, the unabridged you, the one that is unapologetic for being unique. And I know it sounds so cliche. And Lisa, this is something that you living in your greatness and your state of being and in that internal connection that allows yourself to expand beyond to limitless, reality. And people go, okay, now he's really getting out there. It's like, no, the truth is that there's nothing holding us back except us.
Yeah.
You are the chokehold in your happiness. You are the chokehold in your ability to be able to move past. Because we believe that someone's judging us, and it's because you're judging you.
Yeah.
The only way you can feel judged, sorry, y'all, but not really, is if you're judging you. If there's a part
Mhm.
of you that's still, regardless of the Stuart Smalley, school of self-development, I'm strong enough and I'm bright enough, and by golly, people like me, and that's
Yeah.
great. So, what if you weren't broken?
Mhm.
What if
No
this?
one is broken.
No, they're not. And so I love what you say in that you are a healer to the healers and helping people find that collaboration, because I do believe that that energetic frequency is your gift. It's
Mhm.
not just at one level. It's like you radiate everywhere. You have gravity, girl. That's it.
Oh, thank you.
You do. And people manifest with you, through you, and to you. And when we decided to talk about this 2 minutes before the show, seriously, y'all, because this is about being present. Part of authenticity is living in the moment. In the moment. And I know with this beautiful soul, we can have this type of dialogue. In fact, every time I get on the phone with her, I mean, I'm
We
just,
talk like this all the time.
we do, and it's kind of crazy, and I love it. Thank you, as I used to say this. Who do I get to have these conversations with? And the
Mhm.
truth is, I get to have these conversations with my wife,
Mm.
Julie, my beautiful friend Vinu, with my beautiful sister Lisa. And the fact is, there are more people who are like you when you're being you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. I think it's really powerful when you actually when you show up, you what you're doing is you're giving people who are coming to you, the permission to show up to.
Yes.
You're actually working on that, like attracts like. We all know the law of attraction, like attracts like, the mindset. But when you show up, and I think this is the reason why you and I, Chuck, there is this gravitation. We have these intense conversations. And so when you show up with your authentic self, you show up with your showing your heart, your true being, your soul, your core, it allows somebody else to actually show up exactly the same way. And what you're doing by doing that is giving someone a gift to be vulnerable in that moment, because they may never have actually been vulnerable before.
Mm.
And that's a true gift.
No, thank you. I I finally decided several years ago when we created YBL that I was going to get rid of playing small. And
Yeah.
so I said, well, what would that look like and feel like? And I said, being me, being
Mm,
open, being vulnerable. And I've always found with you and many others now, I didn't know that this is a way that you could actually live, which is open and free. And when we forgive, it elicits freedom. And one of the things that as human beings, not human doings, is because we can be very busy. And I have
yeah.
this saying, and it's a family motto. I say you can be doing your best, but never being your best. When we be our best, you will always do your best. In that
Mm,
moment, the resources that you have, with the gifts and blessings and the universe conspiring for your happiness, because life is happening for you and not to you.
yeah. Yeah.
So, Lisa, how do people find out more about you? Like, seriously, because you do so many different things. Where can they go and find out the essence, the purity, the skills and distinctions that are Lisa Williams?
So listen, there's so many avenues, Facebook, which is Facebook and Instagram and all of that, but mainly my website, which is lisawilliams.com, nice and easy. And I that's one of the things that I'm very, very passionate about is helping people find their true authentic self, find out who they are, their gifts within, their innate space that they truly have, that intuitive side, that healer, that maybe, a little bit weird side, that, and I would say, welcome to my circle of weirdness where we're all normal, and so, I embrace all of that.
Yes.
And I always say, come along for the ride. We have a great community on Facebook. Just look for Lisa Williams, Psychic Medium. You'll find me. I'm the English girl. So yeah, you'll find me.
It's beautiful. It really does make a difference because at times, people will leave these discussions and go, "Oh, well, that was lovely," and
Mm,
I'm going to create some awareness, and that is, if you feel resonance with this conversation tonight, please come check out Lisa. Come check out YBL. Go just yblnow.com. Lisa's a member of it, and there's a reason. And one of my proudest moments was Lisa as a speaker. We've had several, presenters now. They're members of our community. And I go, what is it? Because they get to choose to be a part of any communities they want to be.
yeah.
And I really feel what's different is when you find a community that's actually a community and not just a mastermind.
Yes. Yeah.
It's when people are coming to a space to not only receive but to give. Because there's this
Yeah.
ideology, oh, I paid for this, I'm a part of this. I go, that's awesome. And I go, who's coming to the party?
Yeah.
Who's showing up? And I go, I know when I sit next to this lady, we're chatting. And it's not like, hey, so how are the kiddos? Oh, the weather. No, it's like deep, deep, deep stuff. And it feels so congruent. Because here's the other part. No judgment.
No judgment.
None.
Nope.
Oh,
Not
you
at
are
all.
such a gift. You are such a gift. So
Thank you, Chuck.
to have you on and to just share. And for all of you, thank you for your time and energy and your comments. It's so beautiful to see the engagement and to just see and feel and hear all of you out there. This is about us. Your best life. Because if you're going to live life, are you going to just live it? Are you going to survive it? Or are you going to thrive in it? I say if you're going to live life, live your best life.
Agreed.
Live your best life. And so, Lisa, thank you. I pray that many people look you up and see you and hear you. Even on the replays of this show, I can't wait to see all the engagement. I'm just
amazing.
reminding everyone, love you. Thank you.
I love you, Chuck. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
I'm going to let everyone know that this show can also be heard on the Spanglish Radio Network. Please check us out for all the news, all the programming, Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it.